Hi, everybody, and welcome to this unique and inspired storytelling session. It was such a large session with the women in animation. I can't believe it. It was so huge. We were all waiting in the backstage. Well done to all the ladies on that. It is so great to be with you, and thank you for the huge honor. Thank you to Disney Animation Studios for allowing us to talk about something we're so passionate about, and a group of people who are literally in the thick of things in terms of unique and inspired storytelling from the continent. My name is Vanessa. I'm actually South African. I live in Cape Town and I work with Triggerfish Animation. And gosh, I've been in animation since 2007. And back then, the industry, specifically in Cape Town, was really small, and the opportunities were quite limited, mostly commercial, actually. And over the last 15 years, to have seen the industry bloom in such an amazing way has been so exciting to see. Um, and yeah, it really is exciting to watch. Sorry, I'm just watching the chat just to check if my audio is fine. Um, it is so exciting to watch these creators and writers who are on our panel today be a part of our session. I'd love to introduce the panel. They're joining us now. Chekwuba Okonkwo, who is the art director of Magic Carpet Studios. He's joining us now.
Hi
Thank
guys.
you. Sorry. There we go.
Hi everyone.
Hey, Chekwuba, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. You look
Great. And
beautiful.
we've got, thank you. We've got Ziki Nelson, the creator of Iwashi, joining us now as well. We've got Marlon West joining us. Hi, Ziki. How are you doing? We've got Marlon West joining us, the VFX supervisor on Iwaju. Hi, Marlon. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you? How's everybody?
Great.
We're
Welcome to the
good.
panel. I'm just introducing everyone, so we're all going to be on screen. We're also going to welcome Tendai Nyeka from South Africa and Nompi Vilakazi. Tendai is an executive. She's a creator. She's a writer. I'm not sure what she doesn't do, but she's currently working on some very exciting projects from South Africa. And Nompi Vilakazi as well, owner, creator, producer of many of our own shows, also from South Africa. Welcome to the panel, everybody. It's so good to see you. Can everybody hear us okay?
Hi, Vanessa.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Absolutely.
Hi, oh, great. Awesome. What an absolute honor to be on this panel, to be able to talk about unique and inspired storytelling from the continent. I'm so excited because each and every one of you has got your hands very much involved in a project, in a TV series, a feature film at the moment. And I know that you've got so many stories. I know that when we look at the industry a couple of years ago, there was not much going on. The interest to produce stories from the continent that has a global appeal, it was quite limited, but things have changed dramatically in the last 5 years that I've seen. But I'd love to just have each of you just introduce yourself, to let us know what you're working on and which projects you represent, and we'll jump straight in. Chekwuba, where are you patching in
Okay.
from? Um,
Okay. My name is Chekube Okonkwo Emmanuel. I know it's quite long, but that's one thing about African names. I'm the art director of Magic Carpet Studios. Magic Carpet Studios was founded 5 years ago. We're pretty much an animation leading studio here in Nigeria. And we have very exciting projects. The Passport of Malam Ilya we're currently working on, and we have some series that we are currently in production in. We are a studio that explores 3D animation, 2D animation, and also cutout animation. And so far so good. I think it's been quite an interesting journey. I think that's it.
Amazing. Thanks, Chikwuba. Yeah, and you're also you're heading up the project on Africa's first 2D animated feature film, which is
Yes.
so exciting. And I
Yeah.
love that because I honestly believe 2D is the way for African storytellers to tell their stories quite quickly. So I'm so
Completely.
excited about your project and what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And Olifikayo, I hope I said that okay. Ziki, thank you for joining us. What an amazing opportunity to be able to meet you and to share your journey about Iwaju. Gosh, your background is just so colorful with all the graphic novels and stories that you've been knee deep in and completely immersed in for all these years. Tell us a bit about yourself and where you're patching in from.
Hey everyone. Yeah. So I'm the co-founder of Kugali, where it's an arts and entertainment company focused on showcasing African-inspired stories using art and animation. So we started off publishing comic books and graphic novels, but then started to also expand into the field of animation. And about 2 years into the 2.5 years into the journey, we were on the BBC, and that put us on the radar of Disney Animation, who eventually reached out to us, interested in some sort of collaboration. And so, after a lengthy discussion between both parties, we were able to strike. We were able to find something interesting to do together. And so Iwaju is really a collaboration between Kugali and Disney to showcase a West African inspired story the likes the world has never seen before. My role, both in Kugali and in Disney, in Kugali, like I said, I was one of the co-founders. I'm also a writer as well. Really, I'm a storyteller at heart. So I've written, I think, 4 graphic novels. I think I have that math correct. And I also wrote, or I'm one of the writers on Iwaju, as well as the director.
Amazing. Oh, so exciting. Yeah, and the world can't wait to see what you guys are up to in studio. I know that Marlon, I mean, you're an absolute legend in the industry. You've been on every film that I love. Gosh, and you're working on with the team on Iwashu at the moment as well. Welcome to the
Yeah.
panel. Where are you patching in from, Marlon?
I am in Glendale, California, which is just outside of Los Angeles. I've lived here in Los Angeles for about 30 years, and I've been working at Disney for almost 30 years. So I've been mainly working on their features and in their effects department as a head of effects on Encanto, most recently, both Frozen's and Moana. But this was an opportunity to actually help create a whole show with some new storytellers, with new studio partners, a completely, African world. So I couldn't resist it. When I saw the pitch that Ziki and Tolu and Hamid had created, that we kind of had on our internal website for a while, I was blown away. There was like no way I couldn't participate in the project, and it's been really great working with them for like over a year now.
Amazing. Oh, thank you, Marlon. I can't wait to hear about all your stories as we get further along in this 1 hour session. It's far too short with all of you legends. And the ladies, last but not least, it's so great to see you, Tendai. I know that you're in Cape Town with me, but you're often all over the world and I can never quite keep up with you. You've got, Tendai, your history in filmmaking and in animation is an exciting one, and you currently have your own film that's going to be an Annecy in the Animation Demand Pitching Forum. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm Tendai Nyeke. I'm actually Zimbabwean born, so shout out to my fellow Zimbos. And my journey into animation was the live action route, similar to you, Vanessa, but I think I kind of was in there longer. And I wish I discovered animation earlier because I'm loving it so much. So working in development, I sort of grew into a development role, executive role in my live action career, and then transitioned into animation. And the beauty of bringing different art forms together has been such a revelation to me, and being a player in that, and using different ways of communicating story and identity and character through visuals and music and story is just super, super cool. Currently supervising producer on a Disney Plus sci-fi animation slate. And then we saw Iwaju and we're like, yo, what are they doing? Which is really cool to see that there's stories from across the continent that are being given a stage. So our 10 shorts have 10 different directors from across the continent. And then just seeing, in fact, we were actually looking at your comics, Ziki, when we're kind of looking for stuff, for inspiration. And it was just really exciting to see how different creators are just finding any way possible to tell stories, even if it's not an animation. So being a part of that ecosystem is super, super cool. So outside of that anthology, as you said, I just got news that my film got selected to pitch at Annecy in the MIFA group. I'm super excited, but it's really scary being on the pitching side of things, because usually when you're a development exec, you're receiving pitches and you're listening to other people and judging everyone else. And then now I'm going to be judged and evaluated. But I love the opportunity to exercise that craft, as well as support other creators in telling their stories. So it's really nice to be on this panel and to talk more about what we're doing in African animation.
Amazing. Thanks, Tendai. And the other lady in our panel, Nompi Vilakazi, is just having some internet issues. I'm not sure if we can hear her, but we can't see her. But I can share a little bit about her, and when she does patch in, then at least you have a little bit of a sneak preview. Nompi owns her own company called Botano Pictures, and has actually just recently won the NFVF 3-year slate to develop television series and feature films. It's a South African fund, which is quite exciting because she has a number of shows on her slate, one of which is an exciting preschool show, and she really is a mover and a shaker in the industry. She really is someone to watch as she finds her feet and owning her own IP and owning that space and telling her stories from our part of the world, which is quite exciting. So yeah, and specifically as an independent producer, it's a very exciting and a journey for her ahead. But we'll see if she can patch in a sec. And yeah, just I'm Vanessa. I'm from Triggerfish, and I've had such a pleasure over the years to have worked in a development capacity and as a producer on many of Triggerfish's projects. But the most exciting parts of my last sort of 5-6 years has been around acceleration programs and supporting and partnering with many new creators, writers and directors, artists, as they find their legs in this industry, specifically from the continent, and finding a way to bridge between opportunities and those wanting to partner with new, fresh voices, and making that work, putting the infrastructure in place so that they can actually make their films and their shows, and that it's successful. And so that's been exciting to do, just to be in a supporting role, and also working on the African anthology. And Mama K's Team 4 was a very much a part of my last couple of years, and Kia, the preschool show with Disney Junior, and it's been so amazing. As I said earlier, I've seen such transformation. I'd love to know, Marlon, from your perspective, based in the States, having a look into what is happening on the African continent, how have you seen change come about in the industry, specifically here?
Well, it's been wonderful, actually, not only working with the Kugali leadership and founders, but actually just seeing things going on at Triggerfish and other studios just around, just people entering the fray. And, I mean, I couldn't have imagined like a decade ago sitting on a panel like this with this many, African creators. This is just, it blows my mind, frankly. So it's just, I'm just super excited to see what other creatives and other voices are bringing into this fray of animation.
Amazing. And Chakwuba, I know that is a part of your studio's journey in Nigeria. Often it's quite a tough journey, because it's a journey about being able to keep producing and developing your own IP, but also to keep the lights on, and that in itself is a challenge. And you're wanting to be inspired by and ready for when that next opportunity arises, but you're keeping a team alive, and everybody's so excited with you, and that passion is firing, but it's also hard to do the business of animation. How has the journey been for you these last couple of years?
Oh, the journey has been very, very interesting. I would say the journey has been very adventurous here in Nigeria. I think we are very highly spirited people, and we have the energy to work. I know that there's so many stories about Nigerians and everything. Quite all right. When we stumbled into animation 5 years ago, Magic Carpet started with a very slim team, a team of 2 people, 2 animators, and we realized that, okay, skill, talent was really an issue. getting guys on board was really an issue, and we had to start reaching out to schools, going to universities, and trying to teach, and get recruits interns that would be interested in animation. And we went to this particular university. I don't want to mention names, and we realized that they are really going about things traditionally, right? And there are no computers and stuff. And we decided to, build. We wanted to build a magic lab, like a campus within the school, so that we can train students of graphics in animation. And we kind of wrestled with that for a while until we had to set up that program for ourselves in-house in the studio, and we brought in up to 50 students, and we had to train them, put them through that training process, and it's really been a journey. So far, so good. And I think part of which we had to now look at African literature and tap into African literature. We all know that The Passport of Malam Elia is an adaptation of a very celebrated book written by Cyprian Equensi, a very celebrated writer here in Nigeria. His work has been read all around the world. And we started doing that work, and we realized that it's a lot more than we thought. So we had to take some steps back and start from research. So we had to go as far as Kano, where the story is being centered, and spend some months in Kano researching on how to create this particular project. And it's honestly it's a long story. It's quite a lot of journey. But I would say in my own experience, I would say we are still, the industry is still forming in Nigeria, and it begins with training. Training is the first step. I think we need to get more people aware about animation. Parents also need to see the future in animation and see that it's possible for artists to, make a career out of it, and it's something that really, really will take everyone far and put the continent at in a very good place in history.
And not only, I mean, kudos to the Magic Carpet Studios team for an initiative of training straight slap bang into schools to find talent. I mean, what an amazing way to do that. But I think what really also inspires more talent and fresh talent in this industry is the stories. And the stories excite us. And as soon as we're making and telling our own stories, the interest is there. The talent is there. They're standing by and waiting for an opportunity. I mean, in terms of like Ziki, a part of Nigeria is culture, is these digital comics, and the comic book industry is huge, and Comic-Con in Lagos. And I think Nigerians are just so forward thinking in terms of if nobody's going to give us money and produce and help us produce our own stories, we're gonna just do the comics ourselves. We're gonna get them published. We're gonna get them out there. We're gonna get our own audience, and I love that about Nigeria. And I mean, what is the future of comic books coming out of Nigeria? Do you think the adaptation into films and TV are there? I'm guessing there's loads of stories out there waiting to be picked up.
Yeah, that's a big question, the future of comic books in Nigeria. And I don't know if I have a clear answer. However, I think that some of the things to consider are where it came from, where it currently is today, and then that might give us a sense of what the future might hold. So for a very long time, the comic book, I would even call it community in Nigeria, was very small and it was very niche. It was really just a handful of creators that really love to draw comics. And even back in the 90s, they were doing these comic book strips and trying to actually print out their comics and get them out there. And then I believe it was in 2007 that the very first Comic-Con in Nigeria actually took place. And I think that this is where things started to pick up a lot more momentum, because every year that Comic-Con just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that was actually what inspired me, or part of what inspired me to embark on the journey that eventually led to Kugali with my co-founders. However, let's see, it's been 15 years since 2000 sorry, the first Comic-Con was in 2007. I have my dates wrong, 2012. So it's been about 10 years since that inaugural Comic-Con. In that time period, what I've noticed is the most pertinent issue is really distribution. The comic book industry is really centered on being able to distribute comics easily and seamlessly. I'm based in London, in England, and I can walk into a bookshop, I can walk into a comic book shop, or I can even order a comic book online very easily, very conveniently. However, we don't really have that distribution infrastructure in Nigeria and in most of Africa. So, one of the assumptions that we held is maybe we can bypass the distribution problem by focusing primarily on digital. But then we noticed that the digital distribution infrastructure as well is not the same as what you have in the West. Now, this has changed somewhat since we started, because, in the West, you have payment platforms like Stripe or WorldPay that allow these things to, like, transactions to take place. But it's only like e-commerce in the Africa space is really only starting to take off. So I think once we see major innovation in these areas, we'll start to see an explosion in the creation and consumption of these content types of content. So in the short term, I think a lot of our success has actually hinged on getting a platform and an audience over in Europe and North America and in other parts of the world. And I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to foster the community and the industry home so that the necessary infrastructure and frameworks are in place for businesses to thrive in this creative space.
Ziki, I love that on your LinkedIn profile you say storyteller by heart, but entrepreneur by necessity. I just love that because that you have to make an end in terms of meeting those ends. Like storytelling is your passion. How do you think those stories going to the West and the e-commerce you're talking about and the interest that's generated? Are they interested in stories that are truly from Nigeria, stories that come from Africa? Just talk to me a little bit about global appeal and what you think about that in terms of original, authentic African stories.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing is I think that in Africa, at least certainly in Nigeria, there's this concept known as colonial mentality, which is the idea that our culture is actually inferior and things that are Western are superior. And so I think, at least in my generation and certainly in my parents' generation, this has been something that's pertinent within the culture, and it's really over the course of the last 10 years that I've tried to undo some of that brainwashing. So when I first started out, I felt like there was a need to sort of westernize the content, westernize my stories to make it more palpable, make it more palatable to global audiences. But then the more and more I leaned into the authenticity, the more and more people actually started to resonate with what me and my team were doing. And I think it's because it's twofold. Number one is people want, something new. I think that the storytelling industry has been highly saturated with similar types of stories from similar places for a very, very long time. And so when you create a story that's unapologetically African, it is distinct to what many of the Western viewers are used to, both from a cultural perspective, but also from an aesthetic perspective as well. So I personally found that actually leaning into authenticity has been a very, very important component of our success. And I think when people watch Iwaju, for example, and they see how unapologetically Nigerian it is in both the way the story is told, but also the way the visuals are represented, that's going to be what makes it great.
No, you're 100% right. Thank you for that, Ziki. I think often when we're in development space, you have to challenge yourself. And I know, Tendai, this is something I honestly think you do so well in terms of challenging what has been the norm and really just pushing forward with a vision for what could be new. Can you just share like how you feel about that and how you hold that flag high in terms of the projects you're working on and your own projects and how important it is to you?
Thank you. I mean, the funny thing is like these stories aren't new to us because we live them, right? It's just they might be new to the world. So I think the thing that I am constantly learning and challenging myself is what's the best way to present this to the world. So to someone else, it might read different, But if you can find a way to help connect people with what you're trying to do in your world, then you've done really well. And I mean, Marlon, with all the films that you've talked about that you've been involved in, completely different contexts, right? But there's specific things that are universal, and that's the thing I've been learning. And to your point, Ziki, like there's the westernization in terms of like seeing yourself as less, but then there's storytelling, and there's just as human beings, what are the things we have in common, even if we're from different places? And if we can find a way to foreground that, regardless of where you are, your race, your gender, and people can see themselves in conflict in characters or emotional experiences that the character's going through, it will connect, it will resonate. So that's my job as a development producer, to try and find those human things that are universal to all of us, and use that to connect with people. And then challenging myself. If something feels unusual, I have to test my worldviews and perspectives and biases, and just go, maybe something might feel unusual to me, but if it's held as truthful in whatever space that it is, how do you support that? So those are the things I constantly grapple with in trying to hold hands with creators and help bring to life ideas.
Yeah. Marlon, do you have some stories from the many, many films? I mean, Encanto, just such a beautiful Latin American feature film. You know, there's obviously been Coco over the. I mean, speak to that in terms of like those big blockbusters and films that you've been involved in. How have you journeyed and experienced that through those films?
You know, I would echo the sense of, you know, that there's these universals that connect to people all over, and all ages, and all races, and all genders, and all orientations. And I think that the thing about some of the films that I've worked on with Disney, but more importantly to this conversation, working with Ziki, is the specificity of these films is what makes them resonate with people. You know, when I was working on Moana, we were really trying to nail the shorelines of, you know, we have waves breaking in a certain way here in LA, but we wanted people in Bora Bora to go like, oh yeah, that's how waves like lap up when you've got a reef around your island, Jamaica, Bora Bora, waves are lapping because they're breaking yards and yards away. And so that specificity is what people they see themselves and they see their world. When I went to New Orleans and learned how people cook there, how people take ladders to Mardi Gras and put their little kids on them, you know, and on an apple crate. Never saw that in the movie, but you saw it all over New Orleans. And so like when you put those things in your films that handful of people, thousands of people will see and make it feel like authentic to them. Those are the things I think really resonate, as well as the universal kind of stories. And that's why I'm loving working with Ziki on Awaju, because it is unapologetically Nigerian. You know, it is. I haven't been to Lagos, but we're trying to keep it real for people that are there. There's things in it that we want people to look at and go like, oh, I can't believe you got that right.
Amazing. And a huge shout out to people in our audience who are joining us from Lagos, from Kenya, Senegal, Tanzania, Mozambique. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about unique and inspired storytelling from the African continent, African stories, authentic stories, and stories that move people and have and I never before I've seen such a movement and such a backing and a support by project partners to make these films, you know, whether it's recording voice talent with new fresh talent from that country, from Lusaka, training up voice talent so they can be in studio and be that character. You know, those kind of things are not given time in a normal production, but actually making sure if that TV series is set in Lusaka, Zambia, that sounds like Lusaka. The musicians, the artists, the storytellers get a sense of the performance and how people would live and move and speak and breathe in Lusaka and Zambia. And never before, I've seen so much time and patience put into the many levels of production. And I'm sure there's many stories that can be told. Marlon, is there any stories from your very many years and many films where you can speak to how you've loved working in VFX, how you came to work in VFX, and the kind of stories you love telling? Obviously, Iwaju is something you're passionate about. Is there anything from your journey to getting to this point that you could share with us?
I'll keep it short because I want to hear from some of these other beautiful storytellers. But yeah, I mean, the effects journey for me, I kind of stumbled into it because I've just loved animation. I've always wanted to just make films and tell animated stories. But I got into effects just because I was into more of the whole storytelling, especially when I was started off in 2D. Effects was often just how everything kind of was stitched together as far as the animation pipeline, and even when it just came to just drop shadows and lighting under characters, just to make a hand-drawn character look like it's in this painted world. So I love effects storytelling and helping bring production value and magic to the worlds we've created at Disney. And I can only speak of my experience at Disney because I've been in there for so dang long. But that is, to me, what effects does. What I'm loving about working on Iwaju is that I get to stick my hands into so many aspects of the storytelling, from story and production design to rigging and modeling and character animation and lighting. And it's been an incredible journey to kind of actually watch so many artists across so many disciplines kind of bring their A game. Because we're all visual storytellers, no matter what you're doing. Everybody's a storyteller.
Absolutely. That's the one thing I love about animation. It's a massive team of people who are contributing at every single little detail and level and are pouring their lives and their art into that frame. Tendai, tell me a little bit about, I know there's some questions coming in from the audience, which is super great. Keep them coming. We'll jump to that in a sec. Tendai, tell us a little bit about your journey as a woman and as a woman producing in this space, and how that's been for you. And in the African market, you've also worked a little bit abroad and studied abroad. Tell us a little bit about being a woman in this space. It's a very vague question, I know, sorry.
So I know, Vanessa, you and I last year were involved in Women in Animation. And we are involved in Women in Animation ongoing and trying to find a way to encourage women to participate more across the different parts of the animation process, not just producing, right? But also technical jobs, storytelling, strategy, whatever it is, right? So I know you and I are committed to having our voices in the process somewhere, right? So my journey, it's weird. The first time I experienced animation was watching it was The Lion King, and I felt all sorts of feelings, and I was like, I'm somehow connected to this, but I didn't know how to get in, which is why I did the whole live action thing. And only at university, when I did a class in CG modeling, I met a guy, and it was a lot of dudes in that class. But because I was also paying my way, and I was like, I haven't got time to be doing things frame by frame. I want no time for this. I'm working 3 jobs. I can't do this. So I did some fine art class instead. So I think I had that impatience, that whole rendering thing. Marlon, I admire your work, Ziki, you and drawing. I'm like, kudos to you, do that. But I think I was very interested in being support and creating spaces where artists could feel they could thrive. And I was super passionate about doing that. And so I guess as a woman, I just didn't feel like those spaces were made for me, and people were having conversations with me around what I could do. And so I kind of had to create those spaces myself, or knock on my own, or ask questions on my own. So that's the one observation I've made. I think a lot of women, particularly on the continent anyway, Vanessa, you and I were involved in a lab, an artist lab, and finding women to do storyboarding, you know, they're just not doing it. Like, and I'm not sure why. I mean, conversations we've had with other African female directors are around women have a lot more responsibilities at home. So the time to be practicing your draftsmanship and doing your taxes as an entrepreneur and helping ill parents and, you know, keeping the lights, it's a lot of burden on women. So you're not finding them investing in modeling, or they're doing the more, you know, the in-out results-oriented stuff, like the quick results-oriented stuff. So it's a challenge, and I do want to challenge the likes of you know, the big partners to continue the work they're doing and trying to create support that can allow for some freedom and breathing room for people to participate and grow their skill, particularly women. But I think in the last few years, in terms of women in content, we've seen a big rise. We've seen a lot of them, like, where are the dudes now? Like, what's my nephew? Who's my nephew's hero? But I think we can be each other's heroes regardless of gender, right? And I think that's what we're doing now, in that women can be role models for young boys, boys can be models for women, trans people can be, you know what I mean? Like, we need to see all of it so we can see ourselves in all of humanity. So yeah, I think it's an ongoing battle, and I'm so stoked that people on this call are helping with the building of this whole industry for us as Africans.
Absolutely. Couldn't say that better. There was a question that came from Milton Tinga. He asked, and anyone from the panel, please feel free to just jump in. As an African animator and a filmmaker, what can I do to get exposure and the exposure I need to collaborate with some big studios? What would he need? What can he do? Which opportunity can he take up? Any thoughts from the panel?
I mean, I can jump in, but I think the most important thing is really at the moment, like, we don't have that much talent yet. There's still a really massive skill deficit across the continent. So if you can really just hone your skills and put your work out there, that will automatically set you apart, because right now is the time to really be getting involved, because there's a skill deficit, but there's growing interest in the African animation industry and community. So there's going to be continued investment. But beyond that, I don't have anything else beyond, once you can get your skills up to a certain level, really just putting yourself out there and networking. I don't know if anyone has any more insight to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love
for
to
me,
just jump in quickly. Oh, go check. Go check, Wuba.
all right. For me, I would say partnership is very important and collaboration is very important. We need each other to really make this space work. We realize that, you know, in Africa we have really, really small studios everywhere, and I think we need to come together and start, you know, learning how to work together. I think we also have to outgrow the idea that, okay, the story is not yours or mine, but it's ours, right? We need to come to that consciousness that, okay, we can also find our place in making this whole thing a reality. And for me, I think thinking industry, thinking partnership, and seeing how you can apply yourself, probably as an animator, a storyboard artist, a writer, a production manager. There's always a humble beginning to these things, and don't be too scared to probably even begin on an internship level, right? To just work your way up there, because there's really, for the animation industry, there's really a structure. You have studios that are working on projects, and sometimes it's really, really tight to fit in maybe a new idea or a new staff, because there's an ongoing production. So I think it begins with seeing how one can apply, you know, himself to the studio and contribute to the work, and then you see how you can work your way up there at the end.
Yeah, that's great, Check. Tendai, I know you also had some thoughts.
I want to echo what Chekuba is saying. I think also these two are role models, and Nompi as well, in that they started companies wherever they were, right? Like, so organized, right? So to your point, Jacob, around forming partnerships with other people that are trying to do what you're doing, organize and combine forces, combine energy. And that way you are more visible, right? If you're animation is teamwork, right? So get people that do what you're doing and are adding to a different part of it. The other thing is consistency. Again, Magic Carpet and Kugali and Nompi's company, Botono, consistently doing stuff, getting better and putting stuff out. And I think that's how you get attention. I think, Ziki, I don't think there's any way you would have gotten attention if you didn't have a slate, like if you didn't have like a history of stuff that you've been doing. So it adds to your credibility. So keep making, post your stuff on Instagram, ArtStation, be visible, be out there, and you will get the attention.
Yeah, I can only echo
absolutely
what folks said here already. Put your work out there, and and be good. It sounds really simple. It's not easy, which is why they're two different words. But yeah, hone your skills however you can. Sometimes you got to start out. I started off as a trainee at Disney after being a professional for a while. My brother had his feelings hurt, but I'm glad. It took me like a couple of days there to realize I'm like, oh dang, I'm not really hitting it. I'm glad they let me up in this trainee program. So yeah, if you can find mentors that are in the industry, if you can find people to sponsor you, not only financially, but people to look out for you and actually help point you in the right direction with folks who can help make your dreams come true. But yeah, I say, hard work and putting your stuff out there. There's never been a better time as a creative person to actually put your work out there and have people find you on Instagram and other places, to work with people all internationally. I mean, we've got 6 time zones in every meeting on Oahu, and there's people I work with that I only know on Zoom, so not being right down the street never can't stop you.
Doesn't matter anymore.
It does not matter.
Absolutely. It does not matter anymore.
Working all over the globe together in different time zones.
That is so exciting, because I think that's an opportunity. As African people, I think, are just so resilient and are going to take advantage of that. Like, there isn't, aside from an internet connection, a solid one, there's nothing stopping you from getting noticed and being a part of those meetings. And not to echo anything that was said, I think there are many opportunities where, even just online or in forums, Comic-Cons, festivals, markets, specifically focused on animation, there are quite a lot of opportunities to be a part of that. And so I would encourage any young creator or filmmaker who has ideas to try to get to those markets and film forums for animation, and to have something ready to pitch and be pitch ready, because you could have a great idea, but if you're not pitch ready, you're really not going to be able to have a conversation and to open up a door potentially for some great opportunities. And being pitch ready means you've got to hone that skill and make sure that something is appealing, that can read well, that it's exciting visually. There's a couple of things related to pitching that we could work on as well. And if you have something that's exciting, it's going to get noticed. And also just to not give up. Most creators, writers have a couple of projects up their sleeve, and to not be too precious about one. If it's not going to work in this time and you've pitched it around for a while, keep pitching, change it up, try some other pitches as well. And don't hold on to something specific. I'm not sure, Ziki and Chick, how many pitches you guys have had before you got noticed in that first meeting, and then there was the potential for further development. Was there a lot of pitches? Did you feel disillusioned at times? How was that for you both?
Personally, I think pitching is part of the culture. I think you always have to pitch. You always have to pitch to your team to even get their own contributions and ideas. You also need to pitch, to investors, and there's always that back and forth and going back to the drawing board to restructure your pitch material, and also speaking to studios that have been there before you. I remember several times we've had meetings with Triggerfish, and just try to get some encouragement and get some advice. Okay, how you went about this, and I think the industry is one, and I think we just can feed off from each other's own story and our own learning process. So teaching is part of the culture. You are never going to stop teaching. I think teaching is just part of the whole animation dream. And whenever you get turned down, you go back to rework it again, then make it better. So some people have been teaching for years, and sometimes it can really be exhausting because you're asking yourself, what really is the problem? Is it that I'm not getting it right in terms of business, or in terms of the quality of the story or the art? And you just have to keep tweaking, and just hoping that the best deal would come. And I think the best part of teaching too is also listening for advice, to know what the gray area are. Honest feedbacks. The worst thing one wants to do to himself is probably tell himself the lie that okay, you have the best material. Always look for honest feedbacks. Look for critics and everything. Just it's best than you are unaware, and you keep working with that project, believing that okay, it's the best thing ever. So I think teaching is part of the game. You just have to keep doing it. And for me, for animation, I think what really keeps us as animators and also directors is really the love. And I think the art of escapism, the fact that you can escape to a different world or a different realm and translate that illusion to other people and they can react the same way is just the beauty, right? So if you can hold on to that tight enough for years, and I think it will do something to yourself too. I think it also increases and gives you the strength as a leader, as a person. You find the courage, right, to even handle great attacks. So teaching is part of it.
Vanessa, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Ziki. How many times do we all do that a day? Chekbuba, I'd love to know a little bit more about your 2D feature film, because it's something that's I've already seen some images. It's gorgeous. I can't wait to see more. What is the plan for your feature film, and what is currently cooking at Magic Carpet Studios?
All right. As I said, so for the feature film, we had to go back to our literature because there are a lot of familiar ground. A lot of us played with, and we played with a lot of characters, fictions, and everything. But we felt that to really, really tap into something that everybody, my parents, the young ones now can really connect to is probably looking at our literature. So Passport Manuel, we started that journey looking at African writers series and trying to draw inspiration from what they had back then. It's almost like your granddad telling you a story, right? So for the Passport of Malam Ilya, we are really, really neck deep into production for the past 2 years right now. It's a 2D feature film, and this is the first time we are trying a feature film, and really, really, it's really tough, honestly speaking. But the truth is, by the time you look at the end product of every scene and you see how magical and beautiful it is, and you are having guys around the team just come and take a view, and having a special screening sessions for some people, and they're encouraging you that this is magical, this is awesome. I think that gives you right an edge again to keep working it out. So I think that has been really, really the biggest encouragement. We're working with big artists, very, very celebrated artists. Bruce Onabrakbeya is a very celebrated African artist. His works are very abstract based, and his works are really celebrated around the world. So we are working with him on that project. And for a man that is in his 80s, he's bringing in something completely new. And he doesn't understand computer animation quite all right, but he wants to understand it, and he wants to see how he can. So it's just, I think it's pretty much the love. There is the love part of it, and then there is where Guys are working night shifts and, just spending the night at the studio. So that is, the animation culture.
It's
But I think
unbelievable.
everybody the team, shout out to the team, Ferdinand, my CEO, and the entire team for Ilia Project. We have some contract, staff, guys that are freelancing, working with us from different parts of the world. We have in-house teams working with us, and it's just been amazing. It's been an adventure so far, from the recording stage to the production stage. For the fact that this is the first time for us, I think it's pretty much really exciting, and it's telling in the work as well. So we are still in production, and for release, there's no plan for release now. There's no release date.
Okay.
Once we have that, we'll get that across.
Chekuba, we are all behind you. We have all actually been there to some degree, where there's a project
Thank
that's
you so
burning
much.
and you are dying for the world to see it. We are 100% behind you. If there are any partners who are looking for the first 2D animated feature film, reach out to Magic Carpet Studios. We are right behind you. And if there's any way that any one of us can support you in this journey, do reach out, because that's really what this beautiful animation industry is all about. It's the support, it's the community across all the oceans. We can be connected now digitally, and yeah, all the very best with that feature film, and also all the very best to you, Ziki, and to Marlon on your film, your series. Sorry, Iwaju. I know that you've got your first episode that's coming out of production, or we can't wait to see it. Bottom line, like, when is it? When can we see it?
I think it's going to drop summer of 2023.
Fantastic. All the very best with that. We're so excited to see the what is the best way to say it? The untapped, beautiful, raw Nigeria coming through in animation. Good luck with that. Thank you, Tendai, and all the very best for ANSI and for your pitching of your feature film, Tribe, which is it's not set in Zimbabwe, is it? It's kind of like a multicultural, or is it set in Zimbabwe?
It's inspired by my grandmother, and I riffed off Zimbabwean mythology. Yes, a little bit.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and we really missed out on Nompi in this panel. She's a wonderful businesswoman and huge passion as well to do so many amazing stories from the continent. Thank you to each and every one of you. Thanks again to Disney Animation Studios, to Trevon for producing this panel for us on Rio, for connecting us all. We really, truly appreciate it. And thank you very much.
It was absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rio.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Absolute pleasure.
Ziki, back to work.
yeah, back to work.
Thank you, African Storytelling Panel. Tendai, Vanessa, coming off of the Women in Animation panel this morning. I think it was just so lovely and inspiring to see the two of you, to know that there are women in animation all over the world doing big things in Africa, South Africa. Shout out to Zimbabwe, from where Tendai is born. So thank you so much, everybody. I cannot wait to see what other collaborations come out of Disney and Kugali, and Magic Carpet Studios, again, just in there, just grinding every single day. So we appreciate you, Chekube. And so now it is 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, and we have an amazing, hour up ahead of us. So yesterday we heard from the 5 families of the Disney studios about what it takes to get in the door. So now we're going to hear from the other studios. We're going to hear from DreamWorks Animation, Sony Pictures Animation, Cartoon Network / Warner Brothers, and they're going to lead an impassioned panel of what it takes to get in the door in some of these other studios. So again, this is helping AfroAnimation fulfill our mission, not only connecting creators, but connecting creators to major studios. So we are so excited and thrilled for these major animation studios to participate and to help us. And then again, we talk about getting in the door. Lucasfilm, right off the main stage, if you're on the Hopin platform, look to the left, you will see a couple of different icons. Go into sessions and you will find something called Get in the Door, Diverse Perspectives on Paths into the Industry. And this follows the the debut of Get in the Door. If you Google Get in the Door Lucasfilm, you will see that there is a website already there. So we're excited to hear what those folks have to say. I, for one, will be toggling between the panel and the main stage. We know we've given you a lot to do in this platform on this virtual summit this year, but it's all worth it. Thank you to our friends on YouTube. If you couldn't get into the Hopin platform, we appreciate you watching from YouTube. We had almost 2,000 people yesterday join on YouTube, and we have several hundred, almost 1,000 within the Hopin platform. So again, kudos to everybody who's been on stage. The women, gosh, Dr. Coleman, what an inspiration. And thank you to all of the women from Marvel, from Pixar, from Women in Animation, from Triggerfish, from our friends in South Africa. Please, we appreciate your support so much. So now I'm going to go ahead and stop talking again, and we're going to hold for the next few minutes, and we will hear from not only the other studios to offer inside tips on how to get a job in animation, but also to build a successful animation career. Lots of questions about the way in. And then please, like I said, go over to the sessions, Lucasfilm and Industrial Light Magic. They're going to talk to you about getting in the door, and they're going to share the perspectives of their employees, their non-traditional and sometimes traditional paths to get in the door. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave the stage and again, open it up to the panel and the session coming in a few moments. Thank you.